It wasn't supposed to be there. In 2018, a geological survey team working near Dome C, Antarctica, picked up a pattern during a routine ground-penetrating radar sweep, an electromagnetic burst, faint but rhythmic. At first, they assumed it was interference, maybe an echo, maybe a hardware glitch. But then it repeated. Every 11 hours. Exactly. The signal pulsed in short, burst 3 dots, 2 dashes, 3 dots again. A sequence that mirrored Morse code for SOS. Except, no known equipment could survive at that depth. The source was triangulated to more than 2,300 meters beneath the ice, far below any station, wiring, or excavation. They ran it again. The pattern held, and then, after the 3rd cycle, the signal changed. It became longer, denser, structured, not just SOS, but language unknown, yet eerily patterned, with a rhythm that mirrored human speech, like someone or something was trying to answer, trying to communicate, or worse, trying to warn us. The team didn't release the findings officially, but fragments of the waveform leaked online. One audio engineer ran it through a spectral decoder and found something chilling, a shape in the waveform, crude, organic, a hand reaching up. The location is one of the coldest, driest, most isolated places on the planet. Dome C, East Antarctica, home to the Concordia Research Station. Average winter temperature, -80 degrees Celsius. 0 native life. 0 permanent habitation. Nothing exists here but ice, silence, and whatever lies buried beneath. The anomaly was first noticed by a team of geophysicists from the European Polar Consortium. Their mission was simple: scan deep ice layers for historical climate data. But during a radar sweep on the 3rd week, the equipment began to glitch, then freeze completely when pointed at a certain direction. They assumed it was subglacial heat flow, until a second team completely separate picked up identical EM pulses using magnetotelluric sensors 40 kilometers away. The two groups cross-referenced timestamps. Perfect alignment. The signal wasn't random. It was fixed in time, repeating like a beacon. And worse, its amplitude shifted slightly, depending on human proximity, as if it was listening or waiting. Attempts to scan deeper caused equipment to fail in cascading patterns. Batteries drained in minutes. Laptops wouldn't boot. Satellite feeds went dark. Instruments recorded drops in ambient radiation, as if something beneath the ice was absorbing energy. Even stranger, compasses turned in slow, steady circles when held near the anomaly. And one team member reported hearing knocking, not in the air, but through the ground. 1 knock, pause, then 3, then 5, a pattern no seismic activity has ever explained. A message buried beneath 2 kilometers of silence. Among scientists, the theories divide sharply. Some believe the signal is natural, a rare geological phenomenon, like earthquakes of the deep, where shifts in ancient tectonic stress produce electrical pulses. But even those theorists admit, natural signals don't form language, they don't adapt, and they don't send a name. Others insist it's artificial, but not human. A machine buried long ago, perhaps even before ice covered the continent. A remnant of something not from this world, or from a world that no longer exists. And then there's the 3rd theory, the one no one says out loud in published papers. The one whispered between researchers at night, over half-empty coffee cups and static-laced recordings, that it isn't a signal, not in the traditional sense. It's a voice, something trapped, not broadcasting but begging, something that remembers light but only knows cold, and that it learned our language not because we taught it, but because it's been listening to us far longer than we've known. The same patterns have now been detected faintly in parts of Siberia, in glacial caves in Iceland, even in unexplored sea trenches always below, always unreachable, as if it isn't one voice, but many, or one presence, spread thin, embedded beneath the skin of the earth, like nerves waiting to reconnect. The signal continues, quieter now, slower, but still there. And the message it repeats isn't just a word, it's a tone, low, pulsing, alive, almost like breathing. It begins with a painting, Paris, 1774. An anonymous portrait of a man in a red waistcoat, unnamed, undated, yet strikingly lifelike. The face, smooth features, a sharp jawline, a faint scar under the left eye. 100 years later, a Civil War photograph surfaces. A Union soldier. Same face, same scar, different uniform, different name, but identical eyes looking directly into the lens. By the time modern CCTV footage captures the same face exiting a subway station in Seoul, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Different clothes, different continents, same man, unaged, unchanging. And in every image, whether painting, photo, or video, he's always looking directly at the camera, always aware. Historians dismissed it as coincidence. Archivists called it fabrication. But then came the side-by-side overlays. And the final straw? A school photo from 1997. A blurry figure in the back row barely visible. But when enhanced, the same face, staring straight at the lens, smiling. The child beside him reported missing 2 weeks later. The sighting spanned 3 centuries. Art museums in Europe, military archives in the United States, public surveillance footage from cities in Japan, Brazil, South Africa. At first glance, the images have nothing in common. Different formats, decades, mediums. But then someone notices him. Not every time, not clearly, but enough. In an 1811 sketch from Edinburgh, he appears seated behind a prominent poet eyes just over the subject's shoulder. In a 1942 Nazi propaganda reel, he's walking past a rally in Berlin, barely visible in the crowd until you pause at just the right frame. In a 1,990-second family camcorder clip, he can be seen reflected in a shop window. Though no one recalls him being there, researchers have compiled over 60 verified instances of the same face matched by bone structure, facial geometry, and asymmetrical scar beneath the left eye. The problem? He doesn't age. Not a wrinkle, not a change in posture or weight. Across wars, inventions, centuries, he remains fixed. But the locations have a second pattern too. They're all moments of disruption, political upheaval, technological firsts, disappearances, deaths. Wherever he shows up, something follows. Something untraceable, something irreversible, and always, in every medium, he's looking directly at the observer, as if he knows exactly when the shutter will click, as if he's not being captured, but is the one doing the capturing. In 2009, a digital archivist working for a historical restoration firm in Prague was tasked with scanning war-era photographs. One image in particular, a crowd scene during a Soviet protest, caught his attention. Amid the sea of faces, one man stood out, not because he looked suspicious, but because he looked familiar. Days later, while cataloging 19th century portraits for a museum database, the archivist saw it again. Different setting, different era, samma expression, samma fint scar. He ran a facial recognition comparison. Results: 96.4% match. The software flagged it as an error, so he kept going. Using open source AI tools, he began scanning thousands of publicly available images across archives and social media. The more he searched, the more he found. The same man in video footage from 1986, in surveillance from 2011, in a black and white photo taken in 1937, standing just behind Amelia Earhart. The most recent sighting? A live stream protest in Argentina, 2023, frame 1432. There he is, hood up, face down, then suddenly he looks up, straight into the camera, straight into you. The archivist published a private report. It was removed within 72 hours. His personal laptop? Bricked. His cloud backups? Wiped, but not before he left a message in an obscure metadata tag on a public dataset. It read, "He's not in the past. He's watching the present from inside it." No one has heard from the archivist since. And the strangest part, someone or something has been accessing the dataset ever since. Every week, at 3:17 a.m. from different IPs, downloading the same photo. The object, in this case, is not a thing. It's a face, not a name, not a history, just a face that persists. Its features are consistent across centuries. Mid-32nd, olive-toned skin, dark eyes, symmetrical, faint vertical scar under the left eye, neither remarkably beautiful nor forgettable. A face designed to blend into any era, but not so well that it disappears. When compiled across different eras, the face doesn't adapt to time period. It doesn't change with fashion, doesn't gray, doesn't wrinkle. It simply continues. Historians tried to trace a common name. None. Genealogical records? Nothing. No DNA profile, no fingerprint, no census data. Only images, but those images hold something deeper. When stacked using facial mapping software, a strange distortion appears in the composite. Not a glitch, a symbol, almost like a watermark subdermal, perfectly geometric. burned into every version of his face. A linguist compared the shape to proto-writing found in Sumerian ruins. A mathematician ran it through waveform analysis and found a repeating pattern similar to audio timecodes used in broadcast synchronization. So what is he? Some say he's a watcher, a fixed point moving through time, documenting human history. Others believe he's not a person at all, but a phenomenon, a psychological recursion embedded in the structure of observation. One rare photo recovered from a private estate in Vienna shows him holding something in his hand, not clearly, just a glimpse. But when enhanced, the object resembles a camera or something like it. Not modern, not antique, just wrong. And the photo itself? It wasn't developed on photographic paper. It was etched into glass. There are three main schools of thought. The first sees him as a time traveler, a fixed observer, moving through eras to witness or perhaps trigger pivotal moments in history. Supporters point to his presence at moments of disruption, political assassinations, crashes, disappearances, always there, never interfering, just watching. The second theory, he's a projection, not physical, not real, but inserted into our perception, a psychological construct, a glitch in the way memory recognizes patterns. Some researchers compare him to this man, the face thousands have claimed to see in dreams. But this one is different. He's not behind closed eyes. He's in the photos, and he leaves no trace. The third theory is older, darker. It comes from fringe manuscripts, esoteric texts that predate photography. Some occult circles refer to a being known only as the Witness, a presence said to be present at the fall of every empire, always silent, always smiling, always just beyond question. And now, in our time, an era flooded with cameras, data, surveillance, he's more visible than ever. One AI trained to track anomalous faces across footage reported a chilling message in its system log. You're not the only ones watching anymore. The dataset was purged. The AI deleted itself. So here's the question that haunts those who still study the face. What if we're not documenting history at all? What if it's documenting us? And what if this man isn't appearing in time, but pulling time toward himself? It started with a census. In 2015, British records showed 32 people had listed the same place of birth, Earlith Hollow, a small rural village in North Yorkshire. They said quiet, forested, cut off by winding roads and bad reception. But when researchers tried to locate it, the place wasn't there. No postal code, no satellite data, no county records, not a single map paper or digital marked it. Surveyors were sent, nothing. Drones flew grids, nothing. Even historical registries drew a blank. And yet every one of the 32 individuals could describe the same details. The clock tower with a broken face, the stone bridge that never froze, even in winter, the sweet smell of ash trees after rain. One woman even drew a perfect sketch of the town square from memory. Another described the sound the train made when it passed at dusk, except no rail line had ever existed in that region. And when the authorities asked why none of them had ever gone back, they all said the same thing. You can't return if the village doesn't want to be found. The supposed village, Earlith Hollow, was said to lie just beyond the old Roman road, nestled between low hills and thick woods in North Yorkshire. Locals had never heard of it. No signs, no ruins, not even rumors. And yet, those who remember it describe it with haunting precision. A narrow creek running between houses built of slate and brick, always damp. Gas street lamps that flickered blue at dusk. An unmanned train platform with a bench carved from a single, dark slab of wood. No station, just a platform. The train would come and go, never on schedule, but always just when someone needed to leave. The people who lived there never numbered more than 300, according to the 32 former residents. There was a butcher named Carfax, a librarian who lived above the church. They even recalled the name of the cat that roamed the schoolyard, Mist. But here's the problem. No weather records mention the village. No surrounding towns remember it. And no satellite image, past or present, shows a single roof or road where it's supposed to be. The land itself is now overgrown forest. But one oddity remains. A stretch of earth in the center of those woods where nothing grows. No moss. No insects. No bird song. Just a circle of exposed soil and the faint impression of a stone path, one that leads nowhere. Those who enter that clearing report a strange sensation. Not déjà vu, but something deeper. It feels like I forgot something that once belonged to me, like I left it behind, in a place I'm not allowed to remember. In 2017, a journalist named Eliza Greer began investigating Earlith Hollow after receiving a letter from a man claiming to be the village's former postmaster. He wrote, "They've forgotten it. but I haven't. The roads change when you try to return, but the path is still there, just not where it used to be. Intrigued, she tracked down 6 of the original 32 residents, now scattered across the UK. All 6 told nearly identical stories. They'd grown up in Erlith Hollow, left after adolescence, tried to visit years later, only to find themselves lost. Roads that used to exist, now rerouted or paved over, with signs pointing to unfamiliar names. One man claimed his GPS froze when he got close. Another said his car turned off the moment he crossed a certain bend. A third reported walking for hours through fog, only to end up back where he started, 6 kilometers away from where he'd entered. But the most disturbing account came from a woman named Judith Rowan. She hadn't told anyone she was returning. No maps, no phones, just instinct and memory. She claimed she found it. The village, still there, silent, but wrong. It was empty, but it wasn't abandoned, she said. The houses were clean, no dust. The clock still ticked. And I swear, something moved behind the curtain of the house I grew up in. She fled. But when Eliza tried to follow her directions, a week later, nothing. No road, no clearing, just forest. And Judith? She stopped responding. Phone disconnected. Address invalid. The final email Eliza received read, "If you see a black cat on the road, don't follow it. Mist only shows up when the hollow is about to let someone back in." Erlith Hollow leaves no physical evidence, no brick, no wood, no road signs, and yet something always remains. A faded postcard, a child's drawing, a train token that no station recognizes, etched with the word, "Return." One former resident claimed to still own her school uniform badge, a stitched crest with 3 trees and a crescent moon. When she tried to scan it for archival purposes, the file corrupted. Every time. A digital archivist noted that the metadata in the image file showed the year 1926, despite being taken in 2020. Another man had a music box he swore came from the village. It played a haunting, lilting melody, 9 notes, over and over. When played on a synthesizer and converted into code, the sound revealed a perfect Fibonacci sequence in its rhythm. Not coincidence, design. But the most significant object may not be an item at all. It's the memory shared across people who've never met. Separated by age, by class, by geography, they all describe the same marketplace, the same librarian, the same train. But when shown sketches or VR simulations meant to reconstruct their accounts, each person describes a sense of displacement, as if the version they recall is close, but slightly wrong. One described it as a copy of a place I still dream about. A neuropsychologist who studied 3 of the witnesses concluded that their memory patterns showed abnormal spikes, similar to trauma victims or lucid dreamers. She hypothesized that Erlith Hollow might not have existed physically, but as a kind of shared mental construct, seeded either by suggestion or by something older, a place that lives through memory, not outside it. And the more you remember it, the more real it becomes. Some believe Erlith Hollow is a classic case of false memory syndrome, a viral idea seeded online, amplified by suggestible minds, a village invented through shared storytelling, a ghost town born not from bricks, but from belief. But that doesn't explain the precision, the shared details, the drawings of identical layouts from people who never met. Others think the village is part of a temporal fracture, a place that did exist, briefly, in some side fold of time, now erased, but echoing still, like a bookmark left in a forgotten story, calling back those who once belonged to its pages. A more chilling theory frames Erlith Hollow as a kind of sentient trap, a place that doesn't want to be remembered unless it's ready to pull you back in, that it's not missing from maps by accident, but by design, that it moves, waits, selects. One anonymous researcher posted on a defunct message board, "The village isn't lost, it's dormant, like a sleeper cell in the collective unconscious. You don't find Erlith Hollow, it remembers you." That thread was deleted, its domain gone, but others have found scraps. A music file with a 9-note melody, an image of the village crest burned into wood, not stitched, and coordinates that, when plotted on a topographical map, form a spiral, not a road spiral, but a cognitive one that loops inward, again and again, until you arrive at a center that never existed, except in memory, and perhaps, just perhaps, in someone else's memory now. It looks ordinary, brown leather, scuffed at the corners, brass locks worn with time, no tags, no initials, just a faint engraving near the handle, "To whom it will return." The first reported owner, a collector in Belgium. Found it at a flea market in 1972. He vanished 3 weeks later. The suitcase appeared on his doorstep the next morning empty, save for a note with someone else's name. That name belonged to a woman in France. She had never met the man. She didn't know how the suitcase found her. But 3 months later, she vanished too. And so it continued. Dozens of owners, different countries, no connections. Each vanished without trace, no struggle, no signs of escape. In every case, the suitcase was found near the last known location of the missing person. Always clean, always empty, except for a card, plain, white, unmarked, except for one thing, a name, the next name. And once that name is written, no one has ever refused to open it. The suitcase has no fixed origin. It's appeared in train stations, attics, thrift shops, and delivery trucks, always anonymous, never mailed. The earliest traceable incident is from 1954 in rural New Hampshire, where a young man named Elliot Crane was found missing from his family's farmhouse. All that remained in his room was a suitcase. No one in the family had ever seen it before. In 1968, it turned up again in the back of a taxi in Prague. The driver claimed no one had entered or exited with it. The next day, a journalist known for investigating black market relics failed to appear for his flight. The suitcase was found in the airport lounge. This time, it contained only a single photograph of the journalist, asleep in a chair he didn't recognize. Each time the suitcase reappears, the setting shifts. Sometimes it shows up in locations that are locked from the inside, sometimes in places long abandoned. It never comes with luggage tags, no shipping manifest, no fingerprints except for the next name printed on a card within, and that name is never chosen by the recipient. It simply is. In 1984, an art dealer in Amsterdam tried to destroy the suitcase after receiving it. He set it on fire. It didn't burn. He submerged it in concrete. It vanished overnight, concrete intact, but hollow inside. A week later, it reappeared in his apartment at the foot of his bed with a new card. This time, the name was his own. In 1999, a London antiques dealer named Vincent Hale received a package with no return address. Inside, the suitcase. He recognized it instantly. He'd seen it once before in a newspaper clipping about an Italian photographer who vanished in Naples, 1983. Hale had clipped the article and kept it filed under unexplained artifacts. He never imagined it would show up in his shop. The suitcase was locked, but not sealed. When Hale opened it, he found only one item, a book bound in what looked like faded canvas. No title, inside blank pages, except for the final sheet. There, in thin black ink, a message. If you read this, you are next. Thank you for carrying me. 3 days later, Hale was gone. The shop door was locked from inside. No sign of struggle. No inventory stolen. But the suitcase was missing. 2 weeks later, it appeared again. This time, in a subway station locker in Madrid. Security footage showed the locker opening by itself. Inside, nothing. Just a new card, a new name. Investigators who've traced the suitcase say it doesn't just follow people, it seems to choose them. And it chooses in patterns. Each recipient had researched or documented disappearance phenomena before receiving it. Each one had an open question about vanishing, about memory, about identity, and each one, before disappearing, told someone close to them they felt watched. Not in the usual way, not by people, but by the suitcase itself. One woman, a linguistics professor, whispered to her husband the night before she vanished, "I don't think it's a container. I think it's a doorway, but it only opens for those who understand what's missing." The next morning, she was gone. The suitcase remained empty. The suitcase never changes. Brown leather, soft handle, 2 brass latches, a faint embossed phrase near the top seam, "To whom it will return." The stitching doesn't match any known manufacturer. The leather isn't from any common livestock. Tests show it as organic, but unidentifiable. Even its mass is inconsistent. It weighs differently depending on who touches it. It has no known bottom. When measured internally, its volume often exceeds its physical dimensions. In one case, a man dropped a marble inside to test the depth. He never heard it land. Hours later, the same marble was found in his childhood bedroom thousands of miles away. X-rays yield only static. Infrared shows heat signatures, even when the suitcase is empty. The one time it was open while someone else stood nearby, the bystander reported hearing something that didn't match the contents. "I heard breathing. Not me now. Not human." Most chilling are the cards it leaves behind. Always the same. White, unmarked, heavy stock. A single name, cleanly printed in ink that fades under light but returns in shadow. Sometimes the name is known. Sometimes Not yet. In one instance, the name on the card belonged to a woman who hadn't been born yet. The suitcase found her 25 years later. One researcher speculated the suitcase doesn't contain objects, but absences. Moments erased, people unremembered. It doesn't carry luggage. It carries exits. The only consistent rule, once you open it, you belong to it. It doesn't force you, but it waits. And once it knows your name, the world seems to lean in its direction. One man, after burning the card with his name on it, found a second card in his coat pocket the next day. Same name, same suitcase, now standing in his hallway. Some claim the suitcase is a relic of a forgotten cult, an object used in ancient rituals of departure, not death, but displacement. A tool for voluntary disappearance. The card isn't a warning, it's an invitation, a key for those who want out. Others believe it's sentient, or at least reactive, a non-biological entity bound to the concept of selection, that it doesn't kill, it doesn't steal, it simply offers. You choose whether to open it, but once you do, you're known. A few physicists argue the suitcase is a spatial pivot, a quantum object that folds its bearer into another slice of time, another thread of existence. The evidence? No recipient has ever returned, not even a trace, except the suitcase. And then there's the theory no one wants to say aloud, that the suitcase isn't supernatural, that it's a tool created by something far more advanced, something that doesn't take interest in us, but in pattern. Every person who's received the suitcase was investigating the unknown. Disappearances, time loops, memory loss, people who stared into gaps in the world and caught the suitcase's attention, as if it was drawn to curiosity, or to those who are about to figure something out, because once you understand too much, you become a liability, not to the world, but to the story that's being told. The suitcase cleans the slate. It doesn't punish, it removes. One folklorist said it best in a note found tucked inside her journal the day she vanished. I think it's mercy, not malice. I think it sees those who no longer belong and offers them somewhere else. She was never found, but the suitcase appeared the next day in a different city with a new card and a new name, maybe even yours. It began with a missing person. A teenager in Oregon vanished after school. No signs of struggle, no goodbye note, just a photo taken by a friend hours before of her standing outside the bus stop, smiling. But when police enhanced the image, they noticed something strange. In the far corner of the frame, barely visible in the shadows, was a face, pale, blurred, featureless, except for a wide mouth and hollow space where the eyes should be. The friend who took the photo swore no one else was there. The image wasn't edited. The negative still intact showed the face, too. At first, investigators thought it was a fluke, pareidolia, a trick of the light, until it happened again and again. Photos of other missing persons from different states, different years, showing the same face, not in the center, not clear, but always in the background, always near the subject, always watching. And the worst part? After viewing the image, some of the people who saw it started disappearing too. The sightings stretched back decades. A 1,982 family portrait in Missouri. A Polaroid from a school trip in 1995. A digital photo taken on a smartphone in 2019. Different eras, different devices, different people, but always the same distortion. Investigators noticed the pattern while reviewing archive cases of unexplained disappearances. Someone noticed an anomaly in the images' faces that didn't match anyone present or weren't visible at the time the photo was taken. It became clearer in the digital age. One case in 2007 involved a missing hiker in northern Canada. His last known photo, taken by a drone, showed him waving at the camera on a ridge. Nothing unusual until a forensic analyst enhanced the shadows beneath a pine tree. There it was again, a head slightly tilted, no detail where the eyes should be, a mouth open too wide, and the faint curve of a smile that didn't belong. Geolocation data showed nothing nearby. No footprints, no second person. But when run through facial detection software, the system flagged the face as already cataloged multiple times. Across different cases, across continents, a facial map was generated. The alignment was perfect. This was no coincidence. It was a constant in every image. The face never appears in real time. It's never seen live, only after development, after download, as if it reveals itself only when someone is gone. Worse, some prints show the face in mirrors, even when the angle makes that impossible, or in reflections on windows, looking back just over the shoulder of the subject. In 2020, A freelance photographer named Luis Mendez was compiling portraits for a missing persons memorial. While editing images from different decades, he began to notice a recurring shadow barely visible in the background of 6 unrelated cases. When he overlaid the faces, they aligned perfectly. Hairless scalp, sunken, smooth sockets where the eyes should be, a grin stretched unnaturally wide. He became obsessed. He scanned more archives, contacted families, pulled photos, never released to the public. He found the face again in the backseat window of a car that belonged to a boy who vanished in 1993. In a warped storefront reflection from a girl's birthday photo, she disappeared 3 days later. And most disturbingly, in his own collection, in a photo he'd taken years earlier of his younger brother. Luis's brother had vanished at age 10. No one ever found out why. But now, staring back from the edge of that old photo hidden in a hallway mirror was that same face, half smiling. Luis isolated the image and enhanced it using infrared analysis. Buried deep in the pixel structure was a series of anomalies, noise patterns that weren't random. He converted them into binary. The message was short: "You looked. Now I look back." Luis tried to delete the file, but every time he did, it returned renamed, duplicated, stored in different folders. Eventually, it started appearing on his screen without opening the file. One night, he woke up to find his camera shutter clicking by itself, photo after photo, each one taken in the dark. When he checked the memory card, the last image showed him, asleep, with the face behind him, closer than ever. Luis vanished a week later. The memory card was found, still inside the camera. The police never released the final image, but a file labeled do_not_open.jpg was leaked anonymously online. Anyone who viewed it for more than 6 seconds reported the same nightmare that night: a figure without eyes, smiling, holding a photo of you. It is not a person. It does not have a name. It has never been seen with the naked eye. It exists only in photos, but not in the moment they're taken. Only after. The face appears in multiple forms, reflections, shadows, blurred backgrounds, but always wrong, always distant enough to dismiss until you look closer. Facial mapping experts ran 3D reconstructions from separate images. Despite differences in lighting, angle, and era, the proportions were always exact. Not just similar, identical down to sub-millimeter detail. That's not human. That's manufactured. The thing, whatever it is, registers on file metadata as image corruption, pixel anomalies, ghosting artifacts. But when run through software designed to detect deepfakes, it passes all filters. It isn't added, it's embedded. One cybersecurity analyst attempted to extract it from a corrupted image using pixel-for-pixel deconstruction. He discovered something chilling. The face was formed from absences, not painted in, cut out of the light, as if the image knew someone had been removed and filled that gap with something else. The face shows no emotion, but over time, its expression shifts subtle distortions across multiple photos, from neutral to amusement to anticipation, and the final stage, direct eye contact. Some survivors, people who viewed the face but didn't disappear, report that it begins to follow them across photographs, reflections in car windows, glare in televisions, even in the black mirror of their own phone screen, until one day they don't appear in photos anymore. Only the face does. Some believe the face is a glitch, an echo in the imaging process, a psychological projection from those in mourning. But that doesn't explain its consistency across film, digital, even thermal imaging. It doesn't explain how it shows up in photographs before someone disappears. Others suggest it's a form of mimetic parasite, a concept so perfectly formed it embeds itself in observation. The face is not a thing, but a threshold. When you see it, you cross into a version of reality that no longer includes you. A darker theory posits it's a Reaper construct, not spiritual but informational, a cleanup function, a presence that marks individuals who are on the verge of vanishing by fate, by force, or by design. Not to cause the disappearance, but to log it, because in every instance, the face appears before someone is gone, as if it already knows, as if it is there to witness. Some say it's not after the subject at all, it's after you, the observer. The moment you recognize it, it begins to focus, to sharpen, to move closer. One final theory found scrawled in a notebook belonging to a retired intelligence officer reads, "It's not a face, it's a message. It doesn't mean you're next. It means you're seen." And if that's true, then maybe the worst part isn't the photo. It's not even the disappearance. It's that the next time someone takes a picture of you, you won't be in it, but the face will.